evening. In previous session, we have seen the concept of constructors and what is meant by self variable we have seen in previous session. And also I have discussed about briefly about what are the different type of variables in our Python that can be used in a class and what are the different type of methods that can be used inside a class we have seen in previous session. So in today's session, I am going to discuss about types of variables. So already when we are discussing about basics of Python, there also we have seen the concept of variables. But here, what are the variables we are going to see are which are going to be used inside a class. So let us see what are the types of a variable. So before that, let us see what is meant by variable. So variable can store any value. Okay, variable is a location where otherwise we can say variable is a memory location where we can store any type of data. So now I am going to show you what are the different types of variables. So types of variables. So first one is instance variable. Instance variable. Next one is static variable or static variables we can call. Next. Third one is local variables. So instance variables can also be called as object level variables, and static variables can also be called as class level variables, and local variables is also called as method level. So already you know what is meant by method. Method is nothing but if you are going to write a function inside a class, it is nothing but a method. So these are the three different type of variables that we are going to use in our Python, or we can say in our classes in Python. So first let us discuss in detail about instance variables, and later I will discuss about these two variables. So first, what are the different type of variables we are having? First one is instance variable, second one is static variable, and third one is local variables. So first let us discuss about instance variables. So what is meant by instance variable? So already we call it as what? It is also called as what? Object level variables. It is also called as object level variables, right? Now why we are going to call it as an object level also I will discuss. First I am going to create a class and I'm going to create the variables. So already you know what is meant by constructor. So I'm going to take one class here, class test I am going to take. In this I want to take only one variable called as a. That is also I want to take inside a constructor. So already you know what is meant by constructor, what should be the name of the constructor, how many parameters should be there by default, already we have seen in previous session. So in this I am going to take a variable called as self.a=20. So in this way I have created a class. Just I am going to create an object of test class. So observe here, just I have created what? I have created one class and I have created one object. I want to print the content of t, just t dot underscore underscore dict. It is going to tell what are the contents of that particular object. Now see, we are going to get answer as what? A value, that is 20. That means this is a variable that is going to be created for every object. That is, after this I am going to create one more object called as t2. For example, t2 equal to test. Here also what happens? Here also one variable, one object is going to be created of type test, and whenever object is going to be created, then what happens? This init method, that is the constructor, is going to be called, and for this t2 also a value will be 20. So same thing I am going to write, that is print t2 dot dict. Now what happens? You can see two things, that is a equal to 20 and a equal to 20. This is for first object, this is for second object. That means first object contains what? A, and the value of a is 20. Second object contains what? A, and the value is 20. If you observe here, if I am creating test object, one variable is creating A. If I'm going to create test object, it is going to create one variable. If I create third test variable, fourth test variable, and so on, for every test variable, this A value is going to be created. That means, just I will draw a small picture here. See, observe here what happened. This is a T. Whenever I'm going to create a T, automatically constructor is going to be called and one variable is going to be created. That is A equal to 20. Next, I am going to print it. Next, T2. It is also an object, test object, and it is referring by whom? T2. So it is pointing by T2. And again, the constructor is going to be called. Why it has to call only this constructor? Because the object that is going to be created is of which type? Test type. So test class constructor only will be called. Now here also what happens? A equal to 20 will be created. Now, if I create test object, one more test object, and so on, if I create n number of objects for the test, so for every object, what will be the A value? 20. For every object, what will be the value it is having? A value. It contains what? A variable that is nothing but A. Now, the concept is, whenever we are going to create an object, then whatever the variables that are present inside a constructor, that will be available for those objects. So those variables are called as instance variable. So directly, if I want to say, if the value of a variable is varied from one object to another object, that means, observe here, for T, let us consider it as T1. For T1, here also let us take it as a T1. So for T1, what is the A value? 20. It is different. It is separate. For T2, what is the A value? This is separate. These two are not same. This A belongs to T2. This A belongs to T1. That means, what is the statement I am telling you about instance variables? If the value is varied, that means what is it is different from T1 and it is different for T2, from object to object, then these type of variables are called as instance variables. So once again, I am repeating, if the variable is varied from one object to another object, then those variables are called as these variables are called as instance variables. So instance variables are available for example, whom for whose for whom these variables are going to be available? For every object. If you are going to create an object, instance variables will be there for that object. So see, as I am telling, this one as an instance variable. For object, it will be there. For this class object, it will be there. For that class object, it will be there. If I am going to create one more instance variable, let us consider, here only I am going to write self dot b equal to 30, for example. Then what happens? For every object of test class, A value will be there and B value will be there. Okay. These are called as which variables? These are called as instance variables. Why we are calling these variables as instance variables? Reason is, the value, see here, these two variables are different, and that means this is one copy for this object, this is one copy for this object, this is one copy for this object. So here, if I created three objects, for example, these three objects I have created, how many A's are there? Three A's are there. One A is for T1, one A is for T2, one A is for T3. How many B's are there? Three B values are there. One is for T1, one is for T2, another one is for T3. Now the point is, if T1 want to access A value, then it will access this value. If T2 want to access A value, it will access this value, not this value. It will not access A equal to 20. It will not access this value. It will access this value. What about T3? It will access its value only, its A value only. Okay, right. Now, if T1 is modifying, for example, if T1 is telling that T1 dot A equal to 30 or 80, for example, what T1 is telling? T1 dot A indicates the A that is present in the T1, that is this one. It is going to modify it as what? 80. That means only the value of A in T1 will be modified. The A in T2, the A in T3 will not be modified. because what I am telling here, t1 dot a, that means only the value of t1 will be modified here. That means clearly what we can understand here, a is separate, this a is separate, this a is separate, and this a is separate. So I can use one statement that if the value of a variable varied from one object to another object is called as what? Otherwise it is, if the value of a variable is varied from one object to another object, if you want to vary, if you want to keep separate copies, if you want to keep separate copies of variables, then those variables has to be declared as instance variables, has to be defined as instance variables. Now the point is how we can identify an instance variable. So I am telling that whatever the values that are present with the object is called as what? Instance variables. Now, if I declare a variable inside a class or inside a method or inside a constructor, where can I declare the instance variables? That is the concept now. Now I will go to that concept. So now I will just tell you about what is meant by that instance. So where we can declare instance variables. So where we can declare instance variables, so if you understand these points, it is very easy to identify which are instance variables. Okay, right. Now see, first one, if you are going to declare a variable inside a constructor with the help of self keyword, we can declare instance variables inside constructor. How we can declare? By using self keyword, or sorry, self variable. Okay, next, so if first location is what? Inside a constructor I can define instance variable by using what? Self variable. Next, second one is we can also define instance variable inside a instance method. So don't worry about this instance method, I will tell you. For each and every point I will show you the example. So here also what? By using self variable. Okay, next, third one, we can also define the instance variable outside of the class also. Outside of the class, how we can declare outside of the class? Means by using object reference. So for each and every point I will give you an example. First one is what? Inside a constructor by using self variable. Next, second one is inside instance method by using self variable. Next, outside of the class by using object reference. So first I will discuss about first point. So already I have shown you the example. Whatever the example we have seen here is nothing but this variable is declared where inside a constructor. This is a constructor. If we are going to declare a variable inside a constructor with the help of self keyword, then it is called as what? It is called as a instance variable. Now what happens? Already you know how these variables are going to be created. So see, in this step I am going to create an object. Created, this is object. Which type of object it is? Test type of object. It is pointing by t. Reference variable is what? T. Whenever an object is going to be created, first it is going to execute a constructor. So it will go to this test class and it will check for a constructor. If the constructor is available, it will be executed. So whenever we are coming to this constructor, on creating which object I am coming to this constructor? On creating t, that's nothing but on creating this object I am coming to this constructor. So self will become what? T. So t dot a, that means here I am going to create one object, that is nothing, sorry, one variable called as 20. A equal to 20. Completed. Next, come here. Again, here object is going to be created. While creating this object, again the constructor is going to be called. When we are going to call this constructor, when we are creating this object, so let us name it as T2. So in this also, what it is going, self will become what? T2. So here what it is going to be done? A equal to 20. In this way, the objects are going to be created. If you observe here, for every object, a value is going to be created. A value, a value. If we create T3 also, what is the value it is going to contain? A value. That means here for every object, a separate copy of a value is going to be created. That means anywhere, first I am discussing only about the variable, instance variable that can be created inside a constructor. But if I talk about any instance variable, it will be available for the, if it is defined inside a constructor, it will be available for every object. So now what happens? T, it is available. For T2, it is available. For T3 also it is available. So in this way, I can define an instance variable inside a constructor. Just I will take one small example. So one small example I will take here for student data. So once again, I'm repeating the point. We can declare instance variables inside a constructor by using which keyword or which variable? Self variable. Okay. Once we create an object, already we know here, once we create an object, automatically these type of variables will be added to these objects. So see, T I have created, just automatically what happens? This variable is going to be added to this T. T2, yes, it is added. If I create T3, it will be added to that particular object. So now I'm going to take a small example where student data is going to be taken inside a class. Just I will take a class name called as what? Student. Class student. In this, I will take only about constructor, because we are talking about how to where we can declare a instance where that I am talking about in a constructor. So in it, here just I will take only self. Only self I am going to take. In this, I want to take student name, student roll number, student marks, and also student age. So how I have to take? For every object, it should be there. So self dot, first I want to take name. Self dot name equal to, just I am going to write Shiva, for example. Okay, right. Next, I want to write roll number also. Roll number equal to 50. Next, after that, I want to write marks also. Self dot marks equal to 70. And lastly, I am going to take age. Self dot age equal to 31. Let us take. Okay. So this is about a class. I have created a class. In that, I am taking only a constructor. In that constructor, I am going to take 4 variables which can be called as instance variables. How I can call these as an instance variables? There should be one reason should be there, because the variable that is present inside a constructor is written with the help of self keyword, self variable. So those variables become instance variables. So now see, if it is a instance variables, what happens? For every object of that class, these variables are available. Okay. SC equal to, first I will take S1. S1 equal to student. Yes, I have taken S1 equal to student. Now what happens internally for the student? What happens? All these 4 variables are available. So if you want to see that, let us see that. S1 dot underscore underscore dict underscore underscore. Now let us execute this program. So you can see what? 4 instance variables we can see. That is what? Name Shiva, roll number, marks and age. It is going to print. Reason is what? This object is going to contain those 4 variables. If an object is going to contain those 4 variables, those variables are called as what? Instance variables. So the variables that can be written inside the instance variables can be written inside a constructor in this way. Okay. Now, so you may have one more doubt. If we take second object, what happens? So same second object I will take. In second object also, what we are going to have? Same things will be there. Reason is what? For S1 and S2, which constructor is going to be executed? Same constructor. S1, this is student object, and this one is also a student object. So if these two are student objects, for student object, which constructor is going to be executed? The constructor that is present inside a student only will be executed. So this constructor will be executed. So in S1, S1 is pointing to some object. In that object, we are going to have these four variables. In S2, it is going to point to, it is called as reference variable. This reference variable is going to point to student object. In that student object also, we are going to have what? These four variables only. If we see S1 and S2, so S1 is having four variables: name, roll number, marks, and age. And S2 is also having four variables: name, roll number, marks, and age. So if from one object to another object, the data is what? Different variables are there. That means what? One copy is there for with S1, another copy is there with S2. Same type of copy is there. Okay, right. This is about how to declare instance variables inside a constructor. Now let us go to second point. The second point is what? So this is completed. Okay, next, inside instance method. So what is meant by instance method means? So remember one thing, that whenever we are going to write init underscore underscore init, it is called as what? A constructor. Now I'm talking about what? I am talking about a method, instance method. So already you know what is meant by method. So just if you are going to write def keyword, and after that if you can write anything like I am going to write method one, I am going to take here. If you are going to leave without entering any parameters, if you are going to leave it as it is called as a static method. But we are not talking about a static method now. We are talking about instance method. How we can identify a method as a instance method means, so if it should have at least one argument. Generally we will take that one argument as self. If you write in this way, it is called as a instance method. So remember one thing, that whatever the things that are related to objects, whatever the things that are related to objects always will have the self, always will have the self. So see, whenever an object is going to be created, then automatically this constructor is going to be called. So here we are having self. In the same way, whenever you are going to create an object, then for that object instance methods are available. So for that we are having what? Self. That means what is a method? Method means what? Instance of a class. So for every instance, this is the instance, this is the instance method. This is what? Instance variable. That means for every object, instance variables will be available, instance methods will be available. Right. Now what happens? Already by using these constructor, I'm going to use these four. I'm going to declare these four variables for an object. Now here also I'm going to write what? Self dot. Just I want to add one more thing. Already have written what? Name, roll number, marks, and age I have written. Just I want to write a school name. Self dot school name, for example, equal to. I want to write some. Okay, Shraddha school. Okay, right. This is a school name. Now what we have to observe here means, so if I execute this program, what will be the output? Just here I'm going to call only this constructor. So for this S1, these four are available. For this S2, only these four are available. You may think that, sir, you have created one more method, sir. Why here school name is not available for these variables? Because if we are already in yesterday's session, last 10 minutes or 5 minutes, we have seen the differences between construct and a method. So constructor will be called for every object creation. So while creating S1, it is called. While creating S2, it is called. But what I am telling is, this is what? A method. If it is a method, compulsory we have to call externally. Observe very carefully. Here S1 is calling method 1. S1 is calling what? Method 1. Now observe carefully. S1 is calling method 1. S2 is not calling method 1. So S1 will contain school name. S2 will not contain school name. Observe that carefully. So see, Why here S1 is containing school name and S2 is not containing school name? Reason is S1 is calling method 1. If we call this method 1 only, for example, see here, whenever we are calling S1 dot method 1, then who is calling method 1? S1. S1 is calling method 1. We are the control comes here. Who is calling S1? So in the place of self, consider as S1. So I am telling what? S1 dot school name. In S1 initially, before going to come to this statement, initially constructor is called here. So when constructor is going to be called, all these are available here. Name is available. Next roll number is available here. Next marks are available. And also age is available here. So completed. So here 70, some 50 and name is Shiva, for example here. So we are having these details. Next, what I am doing? S1 dot method 1. Who is calling method 1? S1. So self will be what now? S1 only. Now self is nothing but S1 dot school name. Is there any school name in S1? If it is there, it is going to replace. If it's not there, what happens here? School name will be created. School name equal to Shraddha will be created here. Okay, completed. So if I print it, we are going to get these 5 instance variables we are going to get. What about this one? S2 equal to student. Here also I am going to create an object of type what? Student. Student means it will go to the student constructor. Again here also what happens? Same, S2 is going to be created, and here also name will be there, roll number will be there, marks will be there, and age will be there, and I am printing it. Did I call this method 1? I have not called. So how this variable is going to be available for this S2? It is not possible. Okay, if we are going to declare, if we are going to declare instance variable inside a instance method, then we have to call that particular method. If you are not going to call that method, what happens means the variable will not be available for that particular object. So here S1 is called, S1 is calling method 1, so that a school name is available for S1. What about S2? S2 is the object of student type, but it is not calling, it is not calling what? Method 1, so that school name is not available for S2. Okay, this is about, so just here what you have to understand is how to declare instance variable inside a method. You have to understand. So if you want to declare inside a method, compulsory we have to call that, otherwise that particular variable is not available for the objects. Okay, right. Now next one, third point I am going to show you, that is we can also declare outside of the class. So this one is completed. Now we are, okay, so outside of the class, that means till now what we have seen, inside a class, inside a constructor, inside a class, inside an instance method. Now I am not talking about a class, I am talking outside. So I'm not considering a class now. So I can declare that one outside a class, but by using what? Object reference. So that what we can say, we can declare instance variables outside of the class for any particular variable only. Because as we have seen in method, if when the variable will be, if I call method 1 only, if method 1 is there, here if I define some, here self is there. It's okay, already we know what is meant by self. We can also change the name for the self, there is no problem, we know all those concepts. So self dot school name I have written. For whom school name is going to be assigned? For only, observe that, for only the objects who is going to call this method 1, this variable will be available only for that objects, not for other objects. Okay, in the same way, outside also, outside the class also, if any object is going to initialize an instance variable only for that object, that instance variable will be available. For other objects it will not be available. So I will show you the example here. So yes, up to here it's okay. Next I want to talk about S2. As S2 is not having, as S2 is not having school name, because it is not assigned, it is not calling method 1. For example, you don't want to call method 1 to initialize the school name. So what it can do means it can write like s2 dot school name equal to, here it can write, for example, Geetanjali. Okay, for example. Okay, so see here what happens here. Same up to here, what about method and what about constructor, now third one I am telling you that. So this statement is, this expression is present at which location? Class means from here to here it is a class. I am talking about outside of the class. So all these statements will come under outside of the class only. So here what I am telling, in s2 I am talking about school name. Is there any school name inside s2? It is not there. In s2 what is there? In s2 it is going to call constructor. So name is there, roll number is there, marks are there, and age is there. After that, is s2 is calling method 1? No, so that this school name is not available here. So now what I am telling, s2 dot school name is, in s2 is there a school name? Not there, so it will add here school name equal to Geetanjali. It is going to add here. Okay, that means what? I am going to create one variable. This is called as an instance variable. If you create in this way a variable, it is called as a instance variable. So it is available for s2. Now what about s1? S1 is having school name, because by calling this method I am going to initialize. Okay, now let us remove this one once. I will remove this method and I will show you. I am going to remove method 1. So now observe here, method 1 is removed. I am not calling method 1 here. Now what happens? For whom school name is available? For s1, constructor is called, only name, roll number, marks and age is available. It will print only those 4 variables. For s2, that is student s2, I am going to create what? A constructor is going to be called. Automatically name, roll number, marks and age are available. Here additionally what I am going to do, I am going to give one more variable called as school name. So s2 dot school name I am going to write. I'm not going to write for s1, just for s2 I am going to write. So for s2, what are the things that are going to be available? All these 4 variables plus one more variable called as school name. Now you can observe that output. So see, for s2 we are going to have what? Second what I am going to print s2 details. So there we are going to get what? We are going to get school name also. If you want to give for s1 also, write for s1 also here, s1 dot school name equal to for example Shraddha I am writing. Okay, now observe, for both the things we are going to get school names. Okay, right, this is about an instance variables, where we can declare instance variables in 3 locations. First one is what? Inside a constructor. But whenever you are going to say a variable as a instance variable, compulsory, if you are going to in these 3 places only you have to declare. And if you are going to declare a variable inside a constructor, compulsory we have to use what? Self variable. And next, if you are going to declare any variable inside a instance method, and if you want to tell that it as a instance variable, compulsory we have to use what? Self variable. Okay, all self keyword. Next, what about third type? If you want to declare any variable, any instance variable, or any variable which you want to say it as an instance variable, then compulsory you have to use what? Reference. So if you see these 3 cases, either self is used or object reference is used. So whenever we are talking about self and object reference, those variables are generally called as instance variables. So this is about instance variables. So what is meant by instance variables? For every object, or the data will be different for one object to another object. Different means what? Here we can have a value equal to 20. Here also we will have a equal to 20. For both the objects, a value is different. For t1, for example, for t1 a equal to 20 is there. For t2 also, if you create the object, it will have a equal to 20. This value is different, this value is different. You may think that a equal to 20, a equal to 20, it is same. I am not telling about the content. Here the a is different, this a is different. This is separate, this is separate. Okay. So if you want to have these type of variables, then we have to use the concept of instance variables. So where we can declare the instance variables? Inside a constructor, or inside a instance method, or outside of the class. How we can do it? By using self keyword, or self variable, and here by using the object reference, right? Now already I have shown you one more point also, that is what we can also add instance variables outside of the class also. Okay, third point, how I have added here, you can observe how I have added here. So if I add here s2 dot school name only, is it available for s1? It is not going to be available for s1. Okay, then so already what I am going to talk, I am talking about school name additionally. Let us talk about age here. Let us talk here age, for example. If age is already present, here I am writing some 35. If age is already present, what happens is in S1, is there any age before? Yes. While constructing an object, age is available for S1. So again, if I write S1 dot age, what happens? This first it will check whether it is available or not. Is it available or not? Yes, it is available. So that this age will be, the value 31 is going to be removed and 35 is going to be placed. Observe that now. So see, age is what? 35. If it is not there, whatever the content I am going to write here, for example, some other thing called as a fee. This is fee, for example. Is it available in our, already it is available in S1? No, it is not available. So what happens? It is going to be created. Now observe that. So see, fee is going to be created. Okay. So we can also add instance variables outside of the class to a particular object. Here, what for whom I have added fee? For S1 only. I have not added for S2. Okay, so while you are adding these type of variables, if it is already present, then what happens? The value will be changed. If it is not present, the new variable is going to be added. Okay, right. Next, so initially already we have seen stepwise, so that I am telling what, whenever, observe carefully, whenever this statement is going to be created, there is nothing but initially only the variables present inside a constructor are considered as instance variables, because whenever object is going to be created, then on at that time only these variables are going to be available. Okay, next, if you want some more additional instance variables, then where we are going for instance methods, and for additionally by outside of the class we are going to consider what, by using object reference. For example, t1 dot fee equal to, or s1 dot fee equal to some 25,000 I am going to write. That means what happens, if I want to create any instance variable, by default in a constructor it is going to be created. But if you want to create additionally compulsory, that means what, other than this constructor instance variables, if you want to create any other new instance variables, that can be created inside a methods, and also we can consider what, outside of the class by using a object reference also we can do it, right? This is about the concept how we can declare the, and where we can declare the instance variables. Okay, next point. So the variables of one object, see, this object and this object are same or not? Those are not same, because, but if I am going to take only constructor without using this these statements, then the instance variables that are available for S1 and S2 are same. But whenever you are going to use the concept of the second statement and third, if you are using these two, then we cannot say that all the objects of a class is going to have same type of data. Because see here what happens, for S1 fee is there, for S2 school name is there. Is there fee for S2? There is no fee. Is there school name for S1? There is not, it is not there. That means, but if I am going to consider name, roll number, marks and age, is it available for S1? Yes. Is it available for S2? Yes. Reason is what, these are declared inside a constructor, so that whatever the values we are, whatever the variables we are going to declare inside a constructor, that are going to be available for every object S1 S2. Okay, but if you are going to use second method or third method, then what happens here, second method or third method, then one object data may not be same as another object data. See here, Here for S1 additional fee is there, for S2 additional school name is there. For S2 there is no fee, for S1 there is no school name. Okay, right. This is about how to declare and how to where we can declare the instance variables we have seen. Now I want to access them. That means what? I want to access the data of that particular objects. How to do that? So same thing I am going to take here. Here 4 variables I have taken. So now just what I will do means here I don't want to give names here directly, because if I create any number of objects, same data will be taken here. So that I don't want to do this. Just I want to do what? I want to pass the arguments while creating the objects. So just I will remove these things. So how many things you want to pass? Name I want to pass. Name is Shiva. When I'm going to create an object, I want to pass these things. Shiva. Next roll number is 50 and next marks are 70 and age is 31. Next. So if I pass these things, when I am passing these things, these 4 variables are, these 4 data is going to be passed when I'm creating an object called as student. So when I'm going to construct this student, these 4 variables are used. So if these 4 variables are going to be passed to this constructor, here compulsory 4 variables should be there. It may be with any name, but generally it is what name. So that I am writing name here. Next, it is what roll number. For indicating that I am going to write roll number here. Next, third one is what? These are marks. To indicate that I am going to write marks. So this one is what? Age. For that I am going to write age. There is no restriction of writing same name here. Whatever the name it is available, it should not be same. It may not be same. For example, here I will write N. Let us see, will there be any problem or not? There will be no problem. N I am going to take here. Here I am going to take roll number, and here I am going to take marks, and here I am going to take age. Now what happens? Student 1 is constructed, and in student 1, what are the things that are available? When the statement is going to be executed, so an object space is going to be created. The space is which type of space? Student type of space, and it has to be constructed because here constructor is there. So first this value is passed to n, and that n is placed in name. So self means what? S1. So S1 dot name, here name will be created, and n is what now? Shiva is going to be created. Next, roll number. So roll number here will be there, and roll number is what? 50. And after that, marks are there. Marks equal to 70, and age is what? 31. Here it is for what? Only for S1, because here I'm passing the values while I'm creating the objects. But in before case, what happens? For every object, the data is same. Shiva 70, 50, and 31 age is okay. But now I want to create a second object. Second object I'm going to create. Here I'm going to take second object. Here I'm going to take some names. Channa. Next, roll number is 5. So as the roll number is integer, I'm taking 5. Next, marks are 75 and age is 32, for example. Now what happens? When this statement is going to be executed, the control goes to where? The control goes to this constructor. On space is going to be created. Same name is what now? Name passed as what? Channa here. Okay. So here Channa will be there. Roll number will be there. Marks will be there. And age will be there. So here if you observe, what happens here? All things are different. This is S2. So already yesterday I have discussed. So this is what parameterized constructor we have discussed in yesterday's session. The values will be different. Now I want to print them. So I want to print them, so that what I will do, I will write one method here. Define just for what? Details printing. So details, print details. I want to take this one as a print details, print underscore details. So here, as I want to take it as self is nothing but what? It indicates it as a instance method. So what I want to print, if S1 is calling, for example, if S1 is calling print underscore detail, print underscore details. What is the meaning of this one? S1 is calling print details. Whose details it has to be printed? S1 details only. So that if I write here self, what happens? If S1 is calling this print details, self will become S1. If S2 is calling this one, that method, if S2 is calling this method, what happens? Self will become S2. What they want to print? What they want to print? Print of. First it want to print what? S1 want name is there. So name it will print. Where it is? Self dot name. Why I'm not going to write here s1 dot name, s2 dot name? Because this is a general method. If s1 calls it, self will become s1. If s2 calls it, self become s2. So that I'm writing self here. So if I take same thing, print of, I want to print the second one as what? Roll number. So I'm going to take roll number here. Roll number, where it is present? Inside a method. So self, sorry, inside a object. Self dot roll number I am going to take. Next, third one, self dot marks. So here what will be there? Marks are there. So marks I am going to print where it is available. Self dot marks. Next, last one, print of. Here what I am going to take? Age. Age I am going to take. So self dot age. Completed. Now see carefully here. Whenever these two statements are going to be executed, internally memory is created and values are going to be declared or created inside this object. Now whenever I am calling this one, what is the meaning of this one? S1 is calling print details method. So it will come here. So here self is there. Self indicates what? Who called this print details? S1. So self becomes what? S1. So name. Self is what? S1. S1 dot name. What will be printed? Shiva. Next is self dot roll number. S1 dot roll number 50. S1 dot marks 70. S1 dot age 31. In this way it is going to print. Completed. Method is completed. The control jumps from here to here. Now S2 dot print details. Again the control comes here. Self is what? S2. Now what? S2 dot name. That indicates what? S2 dot name is nothing but Channa. S2 dot roll number 5. S2 dot marks 75. S2 dot age 32. In this way it is going to, we are going to access. Okay. For accessing, what we are going to use? In this way, we can access in this way also. Now just I will execute, all the details are going to be printed of S1 and S2 details are going to be printed here. You can observe clearly. So name Shiva, roll number 50, marks 70, age 31. These are the details of S1. Next four are details of S2. Okay. In this way we can access. You may get some doubt that, sir, I don't want to call this method. I want to access the details. I want to access the details. And here I will write what? Just I want to print the name of S1. Just here I can write S1 dot name. What happens then? Automatically, whatever the things that are present, whatever the name that is present inside a S1 is going to print. So see, Shiva is printed. So here also I can print it by using what? If you are going to use self, self can be used where? Inside a instance method or inside a constructor only. But if I want to access the instance variables outside the class, then where I have, how we can use it? By using the object reference name I have to use here. Okay. So for accessing, I am using which operator? Dot operator. So dot operator is used for what? For accessing purpose. S1 dot name means what? For easy understanding, I will tell one small point. S1 lo unna name. Okay. S1 dot name is nothing but what? S1 lo unna name. That means what is the name that is present in S1? Shiva. So Shiva will be printed. In this way, we can easily remember the point. Okay. In the same way, S1 dot age is nothing but what? The age that is present inside a S1. Okay. So in this way, I can create variables, instance variables, and I can access the variables. Now, okay, everything is fine here. Now I want to discuss about how to delete instance variables. Till now, what we have done? I have created, and after that, I have accessed them. After that, I have shown you every point how to create and how to access from which areas. Now I want to talk about how to delete. So in S1, okay, I don't want to print this one now here. In S1, what are the variables that are available? Four variables: name, roll number, marks, and age. Now I don't want to delete everything. I don't want to delete every data. Just I want to delete a name, or I want to delete marks. I want to delete age. How it can be done? Okay, let us see now. So deleting instance variables. Now I am going for what? Deleting instance variables. Deleting instance variables. So same concept how we have created, in the same way we are going to delete here. From where we are going to delete? From the object. Right, now observe here. So here I am going to, I can delete in from two places. One is within a class. Within a class, we can delete instance variables. How we can delete? Just we can write, sorry, del is nothing but a keyword, delete keyword, space self. Already we know self dot variable name we can write. As we have created, in the same way we have to apply what? Delete. Next, second one, how we can do it? We can delete from outside of the class also. From outside of the class. From outside the class. How can we do it? We can do by using a object reference. So del space object reference dot variable name. Okay, just I will take the same example here and I will show you how to delete the instance variables within the class or from the outside the class here. So same example I'm going to take here. Just I want to delete here. So otherwise after printing I want to delete. For example, I want to delete here. So okay, otherwise no need of printing because it leads to confusion. Right. Now delete, I want to delete the name. So for deleting, I am going to use, I will use one more method called as delete, for example. So just I will write what? Def delete. Just I am writing a method delete. Inside this I will write self because it's an instance method. Here what I want to do, I want to delete. So delete, which one I want to delete? Age I want to remove. Self dot age. Now what happens? Whatever the object that is calling this delete method, from that object age will be deleted. For other objects age will not be deleted because it is not calling delete method. Now observe. First I will show you only about one method, one object, s1 dot print details. S1 dot print underscore details I am going to call. Here what happens? Details will be printed. Name is there, roll number is there, marks is there, and age is there. Now next what I am doing? I am calling delete. I am calling what? Delete function. Now observe here, nothing will be there because after deleting I am not printing anything. So after delete also, observe carefully, if I try to print this one, first it will print the details. After that it will delete. After that it will print only what? Three things. What about fourth? Age. There is no attribute called as age, and how you are going to try to print it? Okay, so that we are going to get an error. Otherwise, if you want to see in detail without getting an error, just I will write what? Print of s1 dot underscore underscore dict I can write here. Okay, now observe. So see here what happens? Name, roll number, marks is there, age is deleted. So within the class, in this way we can delete the instance variables. So if you want to delete outside of the class, let us consider here. Okay, here I will delete. From here I want to delete s2. S2 dot, I want to delete age only. As I am not calling delete, just I will delete from age. From here delete age. So before this I will print print of s2 dot underscore underscore dict I am going to write. Okay, now it's going to print what? 4. Name will be printed, roll number will be printed, everything will be printed here. So I don't want to talk about now s1. Just I will remove this one. S1 I don't want to talk about s1. So I am removing that one. So s1 is removed. I want to talk only about s2. So here I am not calling about delete. Just I am going to call what? I am going to use what? I am using a del keyword outside of the class. Now observe here. So first time what it is having? Name, roll number, marks, and age. So in this case, it is printing everything. After that, I have deleted what? Age I have deleted. So there is no age here. Okay. In this way, I can delete the instance variables within the class and from the outside of the class. Okay. Now, just a small example I will take, and I will clarify you how the values can be changed of only one variable without affecting to the another object. Okay, that means if we change the values of instance variables of one object, it will not be affected to, or it will not be reflected to remaining objects of that particular class. Okay, because for every object we are having what? We are having separate copy of instance variables, so that if you are modifying, or if you are deleting, or if you are doing anything for one object, it will not be affected to another object. So as I am deleting here, observe here, just I will create s1 also here. S1 equal to student Shiva. I am going to write here Shiva. After that I am going to write some 50, some 70, and some 31 ages. Now I want to print, after deleting s2 dot age, I want to print s1 also. S1 dot underscore underscore dict. Okay, here before going to delete that one also, I want to print about s1. So now see here. Okay, observe, I'm going to execute this program. See here what happens before deleting these things. So all things are available here also, but here I'm deleting what? I'm deleting s2 dot age. I'm deleting what? S2 dot age. Will it affect to s1 dot age? It is not affecting to s1. In s1 it is not going to be removed. So fourth statement is what? S1 only. Here I am printing s1. In s1 age is not removed. Here in s2 dot dict, that is this one, here age is removed. That means if you are deleting from any object, if you are deleting any instance variable from any object, it will be affected to only that particular object. It will not affect it to all the objects. Okay, you have to understand this point. Next, this is about delete. Now I want to talk about modifying. Just I want to show you about modifying also. So s1 dot age equal to 100, for example. I am changing what? The content of s1 I am changing, and s1 s2 dot name equal to I will take ram. I will take what? Ram. Now observe what happens here. In s1 I am changing age. If I change the content of s1, will it be affected to s2? No. If I change the name of s2, will it be affected to s1? No. Let us see that. So see what happened. So here, after, see, first I am going to print these things. These two are as it is going to print. There is no problem. After these two printing, I am going to do what? S1 dot age as 100. So in S1 age will be 100. That is what here last statement I have written S1. So I will not make you confused. So that just I will place here, it is here. Okay, now observe. So these two are what? Before going to modify the data, this is original data. Okay, after that what I am doing? I am doing s1 dot age equal to 100. So the age that is present in s1 is going to be modified as 100, but not in s2. Okay, next I am changing s2 dot name. That means the name that is present in s2, I am modifying it. Will it affect to s1 name? It will not be affect to s1. So the name in s2 is going to be changed as ram, and s1 name is not going to be modified. So this is about instance variables. So once briefly I will tell you what is meant by a instance variable. So instance variable is nothing but, if you are going to create, if you want to have any data which is different from one object to another object. Okay, so here three objects are there, and here class A is there. Okay, for example, all these three are A class objects only. Here separate copy I require. Here separate copy I require. Here also separate copy I require, for example. So then we have to go for which concept? Then we have to go for the concept of instance variables. That is, directly I'm telling the point. That point is, if the value of a variable is varied from object to object, then those type of variables are called as instance variables. Next, that means what? For every object, a separate copy of instance variable will be created. So for X, separate copy. For Y, separate copy. For Z, separate copy. Next, where we can declare instance variables? Inside a constructor, inside constructor, But how? Inside a constructor by using self, In the same way, inside instance method, how? By using self variable. Next, outside of the class, I can declare outside of the class. How? By using object reference. In these three ways, I can do what? I can declare the variables, instance variables. Already we have seen the examples for each and every point here. Next one, how to access. So if we are going to use the if we want to access the data within the class, I can use what? Self. I can use, if you are going to access the instance variables inside a constructor, we have to use what? Self dot. Next, if you are going to use inside a instance variable, then we have to write what? Self dot. But if you want to access the data outside of the class, if you want to access the data of any object outside of the class, then I have to write what? Object reference. Next, how to delete the instance variables. So in two places I can delete. One is within a class I can do. If we are going to perform, if we want to delete within a class, there I can write what? Self dot. Here self means what? If S1 is calling it, self becomes S1. If S2 is calling it, self becomes S2. So delete space self dot, whatever the variable name you want to delete, write it. Variable name. Otherwise, if it is within a class, if it is not within a class, that means outside of the class. If it is outside of a class, compulsory what? If it is outside of a class, object reference has to be used. So del object reference dot variable name. In this way, we can delete the instance variables. And next, last point is what? If you are going to modify any data of any instance variable, okay, of any object, it will not be modified to other objects. Okay, so here in X I am modifying a value as 20. It will not modify to Y. It will not modify to Z also, because I have modified only for X. Okay, if you are adding any data to X, for example, if you are adding any data to X, it will not be added to Y. Okay, if it is in constructor, it will be available for all the objects. But if you are adding any new instance variables by using the concept of instance methods, or externally outside of the class, if you are going to create any instance variables, then by using their object reference, we can, what if I am going to write X dot B equal to 30, that B is available only for this X, it will not available for Y, it will not available for Z. So this is the important point we have to remember about the instance variables. So whenever we are going to talk about instance variables, see here, we are going to use generally a self keyword. Okay, so in next session I will discuss about static variables and local variables. Thank you.